Hello and welcome to the Slasher Spotlight YouTube page. In this video I'll be reviewing Chill the Killing Games, which you see before you here. This is a 2013 slasher film, though I think it may have had a staggered release and possibly didn't get properly released on DVD until 2015. The 2013 release may have been internet only, and then the DVD came out a couple of years later. It's actually co-directed by two females. Hopefully I'm pronouncing this right: Noelle By and Meredith Holland. Not completely sure of the running time, because the running time on the back of the box is very, very long. I think that might be because it includes the extras. But according to the Internet Movie Database, it's around about 114 minutes, which sounds about right to me. I didn't actually time the film when I was watching it, so I can't confirm that for sure, but it does feel quite long as far as slasher films go, so we'll go with that, 114 minutes. The budget as well, by the way, is very small. It's definitely a low budget film, possibly even micro budget. On the Internet Movie Database it is listed as just $3,000, so that seems extremely low to me, but if that's correct then it is indeed micro budget. But either way, it's certainly a low budget film, even if that's not entirely accurate. The back of the box, if you're interested, the back of the casing I should say, looks like that. That's the spine. And the disc, if you're interested, is pretty plain, pretty bare bones. Not a lot going on with that. It's actually fairly hard to find now, this DVD, so not the easiest one to track down. I'm going to go into the story now, and it starts out with a prologue set in the 1980s, where we learn that a role-playing murder mystery type game called Chill is a popular pastime amongst college students. This isn't until one ill-fated night at a college in a small town where the game becomes all too real, with most of the players being killed off for real. This results in the game being banned everywhere and becoming a taboo subject, very controversial subject that's kind of just taken out of circulation basically for many, many years. We then fast forward to the present day, where an entrepreneurial student that is living in the same town as where the incident happened back in the 80s decides to try and revive the game for profit. His idea is to stage the game in the now abandoned performance arts building where the incident happened previously, and turn the whole thing into a lucrative web series. As you can imagine, there is opposition from the local townsfolk, some of whom had children that perished in the original massacre, and also the faculty at the college where the guy is a student also aren't very happy with it. But ultimately, despite the opposition, it goes ahead and the game begins. But of course nothing runs smoothly, and someone who is unhappy with the game's return decides to take matters into their own hands and try to kill off all the new players for real, much like in the original massacre back from the 80s. So it's kind of someone looking to replicate that murder spree in the present day and shut the whole thing down. So that's the story. We're going to now go into what I thought were the good points for this, and the first one that I've got is that there is a very cool looking villain. The outfit and the mask perhaps taking inspiration from old-fashioned bubonic plague doctors. That's what it reminded me of. The mask is kind of a bit like a bird shape kind of thing. It's a little bit like the mask actually from Scream Park. There were two masks in that film if you happen to have seen that one, and one of them was a bird, and this one reminded me a bit of that, with a long tapering beak, a little bit darker in colour than the mask from that film, but very similar. Look good though. The killer also has a nifty looking weapon. It's a walking stick, kind of cane, but kind of combination type thing, with a blade at one end that's used for a couple of the kills. I would like to have seen a bit more of this weapon, but when we do see it, it's certainly a strong addition to the film, so that was a nice touch. The next good point that I've got is that a different and refreshing path is taken with a final boy this time, instead of the usual final girl. This is a character called Kyle, who is one of the people that is involved behind the scenes with the return of the game. I think he does the internet work, the kind of computer stuff, the programming, that kind of thing. Incidentally, this Kyle, played in real life by actor Roger Connors, actually wears a number of hats on the film behind the scenes as well. He also does the I believe he's credited as being the co-writer and the co-producer, so perhaps a man of many talents, aside from being one of the lead actors. But going back to the character that he's playing, this Kyle character is actually gay as well, so something to note there. Not something that you see very often in terms of heroines or heroes in these kind of films, so as in someone from the LGBT community, so a nice touch there that sets it apart from the pack, something different. Separate from Carl, in a support role to him, is a likeable female character by the name of Madison, who I thought was quite quick-witted, quite funny, provided some good entertainment throughout the film. She plays the role of a PA, an assistant of sorts to one of the people that is the new contestants for the new game, for the revival of the game. There's this Z-list actor type character, like a washed-up actor, and she plays his PA, and she's pretty funny. There's certainly some good characters in this one. And actually, one other character that is worth mentioning is the guy that is reviving the whole game, the entrepreneurial student that I mentioned before, who is called Jared. He's a very unlikable character, not very nice, very selfish, but despite that, he's fun to watch. I was quite surprised by the path that his character ultimately went on towards the end of the film. As it goes on, I was quite surprised by the direction that his character took. So, some decent writing there with him. It did surprise me. Last good point that I've got is that, taking into account the budget, a commendable and credible job is done with the kills. It's a mixture of on-screen and off-screen kills. We don't see them all, but those that we do see certainly do satisfy with a decent amount of blood thrown about, considering the budget. There's a high body count as well that keeps things ticking over, so it doesn't become boring. Okay, then on to the bad points now, and the performance art building where the revival of the game is staged. Though impressive from the outside, is a bit of a disappointment once we actually get within the walls. It's a bit generic looking and dark inside. It's not the best lit film, so the lighting could do with some work. I guess it's just down to the budget, but it's quite dark when we get inside this building. And it would just look quite samey, quite similar, a lot of just like dark corridors, that kind of thing. They don't really utilise some of the rooms that you would perhaps expect to see. Things like costume storage areas, changing rooms, that kind of thing. We do see them briefly, but not as much as you would perhaps expect, so they don't perhaps utilise them quite to the extent they could do. The next bad point is that the film probably could have been trimmed down ever so slightly. It's never boring, but it does feel a little bit bloated perhaps. One area that I thought could have been edited down or trimmed down or just perhaps taken out completely is that there were kind of two subplots going on involving two characters, the aforementioned Kyle and also a vlogger character who is one of the contestants in the game called Raven. And these Kyle and Raven characters are obsessed with other people that are involved with the project. In Kyle's case, it's a guy called Kent Black, and in Raven's case, it's a guy called Devlin. And they're kind of very smitten with these characters, very obsessed, and it just become a little bit samey though. If it's just one of these things going on, that would be fine, but as there's kind of two simultaneous plots going on that are so similar, it does feel a bit unnecessary, so perhaps they could have taken one of those out. No biggie, but just a little thing that I noticed. And lastly, the final bad point that I've got for this is that the reveal of the killer at the end for me was mildly disappointing. I can't say too much, obviously, without giving away the identity of who he is, but I can say that it's one of those whodunit style slasher films, and as this kind of cast is getting whittled down one by one, I kept thinking, well, who can it be then? It's not him, he's just been killed, it's not her, she's been killed, so who can it be? But when it is revealed at the end, I was a bit disappointed. It felt a little bit like a bit of a cheat. I can't say too much more than that without saying who it is, but it does feel a little bit of a cheat, a little bit underwhelming perhaps. So it does end on a slightly sour note, but not too bad, but just something to mention. So we're going to go on to the extras for this now, and it does have a very generous list of deleted scenes. It's probably about 8, 9, 10 perhaps, so a good solid amount there. And there's also a reel of trailers, but I don't believe the actual trailer for this film specifically is among them, so it's just kind of random trailers really. One thing to mention as well is that the special features menu and the deleted scenes sub-menu are very difficult to navigate because the item that you're currently on doesn't get highlighted, so it's hard to kind of work out where you are within the menu, if that makes sense. With that being said, then I'm going to give this my overall verdict and score, and I'm going to go with an 8 out of 10. I was kind of going back and forth on a 7 and an 8, but in the end, considering the budget, I thought I'd be generous and go with the 8. Overall, it's definitely worth tracking down if you can find it. Like I said, it is quite hard to find now, but if you can snag a copy, then by all means do. It's worth a watch. Definitely entertaining for slasher fans. Best thing probably is the look of the killer, and some of the characters are very fun to watch. He's hampered slightly by some bad lighting, a little bit of a boring setting with the performance building not really living up to the hype on the inside after looking good on the outside, but apart from that though, it's well worth tracking down. Slightly disappointing with the reveal of the killer at the end, like I said, but if you can get past these minor flaws, well worth looking at. So track it down if you can. Okay, thanks for watching and goodbye.